Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining for the Complexity Weekend May 2021 closing live stream ceremony. This is going to be an awesome video. It's going to be an opportunity to reflect a little bit on the weekend that we just shared together, whether that was live or in replay. And we're going to hear from some amazing team presentations. We have a bunch lined up. Some of them are going to be live. Others are going to be videos that we play. This is going to be a fun conversation and a fun presentations up ahead. So we're going to listen to a little bit of Michael Garfield's music as usual to get us excited. And then we're going to meet you back here in about 23 minutes and we'll hear from a bunch of teams and also a bunch of facilitators. So thanks again for the attention and we will see you in just a few minutes. All right. Let me just remove Michael's video and welcome everyone. We are here, and I'm going to just recrop so that people can see Sean's head. What a weekend. It feels like I don't have a head anymore.
Wow.
Thanks to everybody who's joining us live and, of course, in replay. We know that no single time for a live stream is going to work for everybody, but what we can do is make a recordable video that will be rewatchable. So thanks so much for joining. It's awesome to see already several dozen of you, and feel free to use the live chat for any questions or comments. We're definitely going to be checking it during the rest of the stream. So welcome, Shirley. Welcome, Sean. Also, thanks to our fourth co-organizer, Jared, who's just not here at this moment. But what an awesome weekend. Any just opening thoughts while I'm preparing the slides to be shared?
Shirley, what do you think?
Well, I'm a little, yeah, my mind is spinning. I'm very excited. I think it was a wonderful experience, and certainly one that will continue into the future. Just seeds planted. What do you call those? Connections made. Sorry.
What are those things again? Oh yeah, connections.
Nodes and edges. That's right. Edges made.
Awesome.
So yeah.
I wonder if any theme words, whether it was from some data analysis on the keybase messages, or eventually something that we could do on the words that are spoken by people on stream or in Gather. What theme words really drew out during this weekend relative to our regular non-complexity day job, or relative to previous weekends? It's just really interesting. Like, what were the themes that emerged May 2021 that wouldn't, couldn't, shouldn't have been emerged any other time?
I think the thing that I noticed this time around that was maybe not the same for the last few cohorts was how advanced kind of the Gather technologies come, and our ability and the affordances given by it, and our ability to interact in that space. Maybe you could help me with the words. I don't know exactly the word to say, but that concept or feeling of just like enjoying that new environment, exploring it together, and finding new ways to interact. And that I felt like was on fire this cohort, and was such a fun thing to experience.
Yeah, I agree. What I found interesting, is obviously we spent time working on the space and building it, and trying to anticipate, oh, well, what will people do, or how will they behave? What will they think? How will they feel? So we did obviously have a lot of that conversation, but the actual experience and getting live feedback and getting people saying, what is this? Is this a rug or a box? Or I don't know, where am I? What's going on? Of course, many positive comments. They're all positive in the sense that it's good information. So
great points. Thanks, Shirley. And that moment of where am I is really special. It's a chance for recalibration and for reorientation. So where am I in Gather? Where am I on the internet? Where am I socially? Where am I just physically? These are questions that it's not like the only thing that we need to dwell on, but it's a strange attractor. We kind of zoom into the question and we come out of the question in a totally different direction. So let's jump right into this closing ceremony. In this live stream, we're going to do two main things. First, we're going to just highlight our amazing May 21 cohort. We're going to talk about what we've accomplished together this weekend. Really, it's flown by. Then we're going to have team presentations. We're going to have several live presentations. Those will be first. And the order there is going to be, first we're going to have Alex Tio. Then we're going to have Roya, then Nathaniel and Vanessa, then Dentropy. Then we're going to play several video presentations. So we explored in this closing ceremony for the first time the affordance for people to either present their team's presentation in a recorded format or in a live format. So that's how we include people who are sleeping during this ceremony. They'll see their video played later. And to those who are watching live, we really appreciate it. Please ask questions, give comments, give supportive emojis. And then the second part of the video is a welcome to the community of practice, because if you're watching it, you're in it. And especially if you participated this weekend, really a hearty welcome to you in our community. So let's just start with something that we wanted to also add in as kind of a tradition or a ritual, and that's recognizing those who've passed this year. So Sean, maybe you want to start off this slide?
Sure. Yeah, this is the first time we're doing this, and we obviously can't know everyone that's adjacent to complexity or systems thinking or any of these different disciplines. So, we've heard through the grapevine, a little bit through the network, a few people we wanted to highlight, right? Actually, Dan, do you want to mention Humberto?
Yep, we can each take one in order.
Yeah.
So Humberto Maturana, one of the innovators in systems thinking and in autopoiesis, and passed very recently. So all of these are just to highlight and just remember those who contributed, because serving through deep time, we think about forward in deep time a lot, but deep time goes backwards too. So thanks to those who made their contributions in the past and we'll never forget.
Yeah. I want to bring up Tony Shea, who's actually a friend of mine when we were in Vegas working on kind of entrepreneurship stuff in the downtown project he was working on. And that was actually when I was pretty early in my complexity journey. So interacting with him and talking about different books and ideas and how he's implementing these ideas in organizing the company Zappos and trying to eliminate, hierarchy in the management structure and all this interesting stuff. I think he even gave a talk at SFI at one point. But I was really looking forward to pulling him in to this wonderful community practice that we've been developing. Unfortunately, that can't happen anymore, but I honor that at least I can raise awareness or just be grateful that he existed and that we can honor him in this way. Shirley?
Oh, yes. I echo that appreciation too. I did not know him, but I read his work with great interest when he was trying to look at his company, Zappos. And I will mention Mary Catherine Bateson. I don't have, but I'm sure she's on there on the slide there. But I mention her because I read a wonderful essay that she wrote in, I don't know if it was Eon. Anyway, she talking about being a systems thinker and, talking about the book she wrote and her history. So I just bring her up to honor her memory.
Thanks, Shirley and Sean. And it's just the tip of the iceberg. And sometimes when the iceberg calves off from the broader shelf, we want to remember that and just recognize comings and goings. And there's, of course, too many to put on a slide. So we just want to cultivate respect for those who are bringing that perspective on systems in the past, present, and future. What have we done this weekend? Well, we really accomplished a ton together. Everybody who's here and listening is part of it. So pat yourself on the back or spin yourself around a strange attractor or whatever, because a lot happened. What did we do? Well, in the pre-weekend, we had 8 hours of applied complexity content. We had about 30 facilitator intros. I'm going to even add a point right now, which is tons of pre-weekend events. We innovated with the one-on-one, drawing on facilitator Paul Mastrand's experience with Civity. We experimented with the one-on-one format, and that allowed us, we think, to develop a cohort sense of shared experience just even before the weekend. And so that vision that we've always had of the weekend being before, during, and after the weekend started to become more real when we were able to connect, and we were able to take some of those insights like, okay, nodes and edges are what connect the nodes, and apply that to our social system of interest, which is our own community, in the pre-weekend events. And we were able to emphasize ideas, tools, and people in 3 different kinds of events. And we know that's going to be something that we're going to be experimenting with in the future. Sean?
I think it's also a really great example of something that we learned in the monthly heartbeats with our community of practice. This is something that a facilitator, Paul Mastrand, brought to us in the heartbeat format. And we learned from that and kind of from that, the next biannual weekend incorporated that. So that's really the way this community of practice evolves and grows, is through individuals, teams stepping up and giving into the community, so that feedback, those ideas, their literal energy as being facilitators, organizers, can all come back to all of us and just make this amazing global community practice.
Cool. We brought together many teams, and the teams are kind of the tip of the iceberg of relationships, because one thing that Palma really showed us is that there is that layer between the individual and the team, and that's the social layer. That's the relationships we build. And from the relationships that we build and the connections we made, 10 or more teams surfaced. We're going to hear from a bunch of them live. We're going to also hear from a bunch of them on a recorded version. So it's pretty cool that we're able to hear from our colleagues and our community participants from all over the world at one moment, and they can rewatch this tomorrow and they'll probably laugh at the comments we make at their video. So sorry about that. And other than the teams, it's really about the people. We had about 230 participants and facilitators. It was clearly our largest and probably most coordinated weekend. It wasn't the end game of Complexity Weekend, not by a mega mile, but we know a lot more than we did a couple of days ago. So we're all learning by doing, organizers, facilitators, participants, and this was quite a special weekend in that regard. Any just points on the accomplishment before we continue?
Shirley?
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll take a lot of processing to think about this, because maybe some things are really top of mind and wow, but then later we might think, ooh, this interaction I had with a particular person or something someone said really strikes you as important and making connections. So I think it takes time for our brains to process an experience like this.
Great point about the processing time. As a participant, I know I have sheets and sheets of notes that I wrote down from the live streams and from the conversations. And then as organizers and as a distributed organizational team, we have a channel with just so much feedback and insight, things that people may have not even expected was insightful for organizers. We copied that out too. So it was awesome. Who were all of these participants who came together for a weekend that didn't really have a time zone and didn't really have a topic and was multi-input, multi-output? Who does that kind of stuff? A lot of us do. We had over 50 countries represented from our cohort. And again, it was the largest and probably the most geographically diverse group that we've had. And this just reflects that complexity and systems thinking is worldwide. And anything else you want to add on that, Sean or Shirley?
I think we should just be really proud of ourselves. Almost kind of going back to the last slide for a second. It's like what we accomplished together is amazing on an individual level and a team level. I mean, everyone is so brave for having participated in this, because you really leapt into the unknown. Not only, all coming together under this idea of complexity, which is already something you can never actually fully know in basically your whole lifetime. So you're always going into the unknown as you kind of go along your complexity journey. But even the tooling, even converting UTC, scary. All this stuff is just, we should really be proud of ourselves and proud of our cohort. This is an amazing group of people, and it's the gift that keeps on giving. You stay connected. You've probably only reached a fraction of the relationships that you could really cultivate and grow from. So that's, I think, the thing to think of moving forward is how do we stay connected? Good segue, right? Next slide.
Also, thanks for all these really positive and supportive comments in the live chat. We read them all, so thanks a lot. One way to stay connected is in our cohort single source of truth. You can check out your row and you can add in these cells for what complexity is to you, ... what you're looking for, and what you might like to be contacted about. Like during the weekend, we were all checking that weekend program. We were using search engines to transfer the UTC time to whatever our local time zone was. But now the program is done. And we're now looking at this document as a memory. We're looking back at it. And in this participant information tab, maybe there's someone who you didn't get to talk to, and you could reach out to them. That would be very special. Maybe there's someone who you appreciated the insights that they brought, and messaging them or finding a way to contact them is going to really seal in that connection. And again, that's what builds a community, is not just us sharing a lecture watch experience or having a PDF downloaded to our computer. It's actually the one-on-one relationships. It's the edges we build. So just take advantage of the relationships that seem appealing to you, and together we're going to all be so connected and it'll be so powerful. Sean?
I think also the column to really look at is this. To me, complexity is for a number of reasons, because it's not only is it, complexity is such a personal thing to understand, and that your personal kind of understanding of it can change over time. Looking back and just seeing all the different perspectives on these ideas, this way of thinking, this philosophy, whatever you want to call it. Also your own perspective as it changes. What did you put down if you filled that cell up early in the weekend? Maybe that's changed, since interacting with so many interesting people.
Yep, totally true. Who were we though? And we can talk a little bit more. The participants, that's everyone. That's the circle with everybody. But who are our centers of gravity, our pheromone depositing individuals? Those are our facilitators. The facilitators are not a special or privileged type of person, though they're also our heroes. They're the kind of people who stepped up for our community at this time, each in their own way, each in their own time zone and availability and preferences for mentorship, preferences for sessions. These 33 facilitators really made it happen, because the organizers just make spreadsheets. I mean, that's the truth. And the facilitators are the one who actually hold down the sessions. They're the ones who take a cool conversation and turn it into a team seed, and take that team seed and make it into a registration form. The facilitators were the ones who were there for the participants. And we encourage that facilitator energy to be distributed, for everyone to step up and encourage those who haven't been speaking to speak up. But then the facilitators are the ones that we kind of rely on in a really organizational capacity. So we just can't thank these awesome facilitators enough. And you see them all here. You spoke with some of them, but their Keybase usernames are also written alongside their names, or their pictures, I guess in this case. And you can just find out more about them, watch their intro video. Remember that Keybase is forever, and we are able to connect there. Anything on the facilitators?
Maybe just try to see yourself in that grid. That's really what our community of practice needs, is for everyone who had a really great experience as a participant. You have a lot to contribute in that role as being a facilitator at one of these events. And, you're going to have your own unique style of doing it, and it's going to be impactful and helpful to the participants you interact with.
Yeah, I mean, I would add that certainly the facilitators have wonderful backgrounds and wide range of experience and different talents. But I'm really struck by the participants as well. So many different wonderful people with so much to share. And so it would be great to have people step up and share in that way, take on a different role if they feel comfortable, or when they feel comfortable.
Yep. If someone thinks that they have a skill or a perspective to share, or just went to a live session and thinks, I do something kind of like that during my day job or my night job, we want to talk to you, because that's the perfect kind of person who wants to be a facilitator. That's it. The person who wants to be a facilitator. Thanks also to our organizers, to Sean, Shirley, Jared, and myself. It was a 6-month or so period where we learned by doing, and we iterated, we improved. And just like the facilitators, the organizers are that set of people who both love spreadsheets, or at least love being on teams that love spreadsheets, and want to be a facilitator's facilitator. So if you want to connect with new facilitators, if you saw, well, we could have had more from this time zone, or we could have had more of this background, or more of this identity or perspective, that's what we want on our organizing team. The way we organize is through shared documents. When someone's a co-organizer, it doesn't matter if it's their first or their 50th time organizing. It's the shared documents and the speaking as a single voice that we all learn from every single time. And Shirley, big appreciation for your first time organizing a weekend. And I know you're going to organize for the next weekend as well. So that'll be fun. Thanks to organizers.
But I don't love spreadsheets. But I think it's great that the team is a diverse one, and that's its strength.
The people who love spreadsheets and the people who love them. Maybe that's the two the two kinds. Or maybe there'll be a future organizational strategy using some kind of future tech that helps us coordinate communities better. If you know about it, be an organizer. Thanks to the Gather committee, who I will unabashedly thank as somebody who loves using Gather, but doesn't really ever get a feel for constructing in Gather. This pentuple of Sean, Shirley, Stephen, Alexandra, and Barb really made it happen, and in a way that just isn't possible with a non-spatial and non-customizable platform. They took people's feedback into account in ways, again, I don't even know if they knew. People would say, I got blocked by this podium, and then they would drop right back into MapMaker and fix that. So these were the people who made our experience kind of work, because Gather is how we connect synchronously, and connecting synchronously is half of the battle. So the Gather committee were our strategists and our tacticians for that half of the battle. So thanks to Sean and Shirley and all the others who helped out here. We also had awesome associates and supporters. Our associates are our organizational partners that kind of give us relationship and insight and perspectives that go beyond the financial. So Innovators Box and our amazing facilitator, Monica Kang. Systems Innovation, who also suggested and brought along a great facilitator, Celine. Remoter Consulting Group, which reflected myself and RJ, and Research Mentors with Jason as a participant and Sean and myself as well. These are our groups, and it's a cohort of associates we hope to grow, who are organizations that think, hey, I think we could be together long-term and contribute in a way, again, that goes beyond fiat currencies, beyond even crypto, dare I say, into the realm of helping us learn how to be a better organization, because we are fledgling. So connecting to some of these excellent groups and understanding how they deploy their values in organizations and in events is always a learning experience. Anything about our associates, either of you?
Just if you know of any organization that you think's a fit with Complexity Weekend in that deep time sense, in that complementary sense, bring them forward. Have them participate at the micro level first. Have them show up as participants, show up as facilitators, and then that will naturally, just that relationship will grow between the organizations as we continue creating together.
Yep. And it's why we have these roles, is so that participants and facilitators are always showing up as individuals only. You're never taking that institutional baggage. You're never speaking for your institution as a participant or as a facilitator or on a team. And then the associate role and the supporter role are the opportunities for us to actually partner with organizations. So we'd also like to thank some of our supporters who contribute financially and again, allow us to proceed forward through deep time as a community. The supporters provide us with financial and also in-kind donations that support us so much. So on the financial side, we'd like to recognize Love is Unlimited and Facilitator Jax, Dialectic Simulations Consulting and Facilitator Tim Clancy, as well as Shirley for contributing. We'd also like to recognize Wolfram and the entire educational efforts that they've put forth beyond, as if a whole new science weren't enough of a contribution. We also have the special and generous offer for every single person who wants to use Wolfram online. We can connect them with that availability. So if anybody is curious about Wolfram or what is happening with Wolfram and Mathematica, we can provide them a license that will allow them to explore in a really full-featured way. So big thanks to them. And our support is going to, in the long run, come primarily from our community. There's a few ways that can happen, but the key thing is that we will never have a financial barrier to participation. A lot of you probably look at even a $5 cost, and whether it's the behavioral friction of just pulling out the credit card or the trust of that, or the realization that there's participants for whom that's a huge amount of financial skin in the game, we don't want to even go there. We just want to make it so that people who want to participate with zero finances are able to. And the way that we make that happen is through contributions from our community. So here's a PayPal link if you would like to support us through that mechanism, or you can contact us if you want to support us through some other mechanism. But we just really appreciate all the community support, because in this weekend, even just the people who gave us support before experiencing the weekend, they in some ways covered some of our operating costs. And our main costs are the gather bandwidth, just to make sure that we have the capacity to deal with a number of people who are going to be simultaneously in the space, as well as honoring our facilitators, not valuing their time, but respecting them by providing them an honorarium. And that's pretty much it. We have a small reservoir that we use to stabilize future events, but we pay for bandwidth, and then we set up a structure where everyone's attention is valued, and that's where money and attention intersect. Anything on this, either of you two?
I guess the only thing is the future-looking thing is that last bullet there is, these contributions, should you choose to do it, is not yet tax deductible, but that is the goal. That's kind of the plan for Complexity Weekend, is to become a nonprofit and kind of operate. We already operate in that way, but formalize it. There's a heads up.
Yep. One of our big goals for 2021. So our community structure is described with this graphic, at least instantaneously. The biggest circle is our participants, because that's everybody. We organizers have a participant hat underneath our organizer hat, and that's maybe where we all have the most fun, to be honest, but organizing is also great. The participant circle is everybody. If you're at an event, if you're listening to this stream live or in replay, you're totally a participant, and that's the biggest circle. We also have event-specific roles like facilitation and organizing, which we've probably said multiple times, but it's not a certain kind of person. It's just somebody who's stepping up for this event at that time. We have 2 on-ramps mainly for participants, the monthly heartbeats, which we'll talk about soon, as well as the biannual weekend cohorts. Twice per year, we have these weekend cohorts. Everybody listening now, you're in the May 2021 cohort, and you'll always be part of that cohort. We have our associates and supporters at the interface, especially through contributing facilitators. They guide and shape the community of practice. And then scattered up, down, left, right, AA, BB are our teams. And the teams form inside, outside, and at the interface of our community. And the teams are what differentiate a community of interest or of shared attention from a community of practice, which is what we're building towards. Anything on that, Shirley or Sean?
Shirley?
Yeah, I mean, the graphic kind of explains it. We're all together in a network, and it's interesting, like we can change our roles, and it's great to do that and have different hats. Yeah, very flexible, I think, and try out some different hats is what I would say.
I do want to mention a point about at complexweekend.public. So everyone in this cohort at complexweekend.may 2021, you will be added into this .public, which has accumulated every cohort so far, and everyone who's attended a heartbeat. So that really is the broadest participant circle. And I think in this year and in this following year, we're going to try to figure out how to take that key-based space, which is rather large now, and turn it into something that will really benefit this global community practice. Right now, there's a lot of, we let people know when the heartbeat is and stuff like that, but we'd really like to take it to the next level. So anyone who wants to be in that space, we'll add you to it shortly. Let's figure out together how to use that space with so many amazing people from around the world.
Cool. Sean, why don't you go for 14?
Sure. So this diagram's fun. So this little green drawing is basically our global community practices energy in some sense. Decide how you want to measure it in the chat. But basically, every 6 months, we have a biannual weekend cohort. So that's one of these kind of big spikes in the energy where you just experienced it, right? And you're about to experience it as we do these team presentations. This is the peak of kind of our output as a community of practice, new emergent teams coming out, so many connections, right? But in between those, we have, 5 heartbeat events that are every month. And that is just a way for all the cohorts to keep connected and get to know each other, even if they weren't in cohorts together, and kind of keep that connectivity. And, we named it heartbeat because it is this kind of superorganism metaphor. We want to just kind of circulatorily, pump the energy around every month and just keep us all, keep that deep time backdrop going, so that as individuals and as teams, this yellow line here, you can have your arc and your complexity journey, but know that you can always fall back into this background, this community energy to refresh your team. Or maybe your team, decides to stop working together. Well, all the individual members can fall right back into the green curve and maybe form a new team with others, or recombine in different ways. So this is kind of one of the pictures of the kind of temporal energy picture to keep in mind. Whereas the previous slide was more the structural, role-based, how do I participate and step up picture. And they both, like a lot of things in complexity, are simultaneously present. So if you want to actually go to the next slide, Dan, we'll just briefly rehash kind of the purpose, values, and guidelines. We do this a lot because it's so important. And actually, this hasn't yet incorporated the feedback that as a cohort you have provided both in the Google Doc and in the Jamboard. So it will be evolving. But, at a high level, we're about learning about complexity science, complexity thinking, complexity in general by doing. We want to engage in diverse teams and try to apply our understanding with specific systems and how complexity is embodied in different systems to learn. And it's also, there's an aspect of serving. We want to serve our broader communities. We want to produce positive change in the world, right? And we want to do it through deep time. So these are kind of high level purposes. And then also the type of innovation we're really going for is one where it takes very diverse people in a team to get at some of these problems that cross so many different disciplines and evolve these wicked problems, all these types of most difficult problems that exist in reality. We might have a shot at actually making some positive impact with this approach of inclusivity, right? Diversity, participatory means of kind of being transdisciplinary. Those are kind of at a very highest point level what we're all about and what drew us, I think, together. And if we go into the values, which is kind of like, as a community of practice, what do we think is important, right? This is kind of the mid tier. The purpose is we all align around a purpose, right? And then the values that we have as a community, right? Complexity Weekend is itself a complex system. Your team is a complex system. You as an individual, it's turtles all the way down. It's turtles all the way up. It's just complexity. Whatever you learn it, you can always port it over and apply it to different places. And we do that a lot when we organize. So that's a fun thing about being an organizer too, is that you get to see how it applies to this particular system. Because after all, we're just one team. One of those little gray bubbles in that diagram doing a particular thing. And the education is active. It's doing it. It's learning by doing. Teamwork is critical. I mean, you can be an individual in this community, and that is totally fine. But there's something magic that happens when you interact with others that are very different from you, respectfully, in an inclusive way, in a way that honors each contribution. That really gets you to this dream that we're trying to do, which is affect these difficult systems in positive ways. And participation, that means we want to be as accessible as possible. We want to use language that's accessible because we're all in very different disciplines, and throwing around acronyms isn't really going to help any of us connect to each other and deepen those relationships. They might be necessary, but you just define it when you say it. Like, do things that are accessible. Being inclusive when you're forming teams, like we'll be doing this weekend. Invite people from different backgrounds, different time zones into that process of co-creation to get at this level of diversity that's really going to make an impact. And then respect is so fundamental. You might be very different from others in your team, but that doesn't make you any better or them any worse or any of that. You all have different things to contribute, different roles. And if you spend the time up front to really communicate the differences there and build respectful relations, you're going to get at this level of diversity that we're really aiming for. And then stepping up and be brave. We're all brave for being here, for watching this live stream, for having gone through this experience together. It's uncertain, it's unknown, it's uncomfortable, but that's where you grow the most. So anything at this point, purpose or values, Dan or Shirley?
Shirley, if you want to add anything, otherwise I have nothing. Cool. Sean, go for the guidelines, and then we're going to go to the team presentations. So just to recap on the team presentations, we're going to hear from Alex, Roya, Nathaniel and Vanessa, and Dentropy live, and then we're going to play some videos. So if those 5 individuals could get prepared, Sean, go for the guidelines, and Alex, I'm going to send you the link to join.
Nice. Yeah, the guidelines were just the lowest level of this. This is okay. We've talked about the macro. We've talked about purpose. We've talked about values for our community of practice. How do I, as an agent in the system, as an individual, integrate those into my way of being, into my nearest neighbor interactions, into the things that ultimately create emergent patterns and ultimately affect the values and the macroscopic properties we were just talking about? And that's things like adopting a complexity thinking mindset. And this means a lot of things, and it's intentionally open-ended. You can please interpret it and post in the chat. Complexity thinking is things like beginner's mindset. It's things like being humble. It's recognizing that you are not, an expert in complexity, and you may never be, because there's always going to be some other field that you are not an expert in. And then, technology is something that we can really embrace and use, but ultimately we have to know the limits of it. We're humans first, and technology is a tool that lets us have these amazing interactions, this emergent kind of cohort dynamic that we just went through. But we might swap out Gather. We might swap out Keybase. We're always on the lookout for the best tech stack each time we do a cohort, and we basically build it from scratch. So that's, as a community, kind of how individuals, when you're working as a team, this can be a guideline, guiding your actions of how to think about technology. And then participation, when you can participate, which isn't going to be always, right? I'm not very good maybe as an example of this. I didn't get enough sleep, but do get enough sleep. Do as I say, not as I do. Eat, do things that are important. Spend time with your family, be with your kids. Like, this is all really important. But when you can show up, just fully participate. Turn on your video if you can. And then ultimately, all the comments are so much interesting stuff about one-on-ones, how much people enjoyed it. That's because this edge building is so fun and interesting. We're all so different in this cohort that just sitting down and having a 20-minute one-on-one conversation is mind-blowing, because you probably never thought the way this person in front of you has thought. And so really embracing that edge building and that connection on the outskirts of those long tails. If you remember the visuals of stats kind of our cohort, or the text-based responses to the registration, there was giant long tails of people's expertise, of their perspectives, of how they like to work in a team. Like, really dig into those and don't just focus on the average or the bulk or what are kind of the majority properties, and stay involved, which we'll talk a lot about toward the end. Stan?
Yep. Alex, welcome. Looking like a champ, I have to say. We're going to just do a rapid pivot from talking about the general to going to the specifics. That's kind of what we do here. So we are going to hear from Alex T.O. on your project. So Alex, I'm going to start a timer, and maybe I'll remind you about 5 or 7 minutes in, but we would love to hear your presentation, and just please, in the chat, let's support Alex. And Alex, the floor is yours, and the video is also yours, so take it away. Casually sips beer.
Good day, eh? How's it going? So I'm Alex, I'm in Toronto, and I was thinking we should have some complexity in Canada, because 6.2% isn't high enough. We can get that all the way up there. We can get that, past the UK, past the US. We can be number one. Unlike what's happening with, our vaccine rollout and many other things here. So I think, what I'd like to see is applied complexity in Canada. We'll just embrace complexity, just give it a big hug, bring it in, give it a nice Tim Hortons coffee. That's probably not even a Canadian company anymore. We'll find something Canadian to give it, maple syrup, whatever. And then just make complexity ours. Make it like this is a great Canadian value, not just being nice and friendly and extremely risk averse, which seems to be a big problem these days, but also just love that complexity and just hug it and just bring it home. And that'll be something we can just, use to take Canada to the next level, so that next time there's a global pandemic, we do a little better, just a little better. That's all I'm asking for. Just just a little bit better. And the Leafs could win the Stanley Cup. That would be good too. So that's all for now.
Well, they say hockey, it's sensitive to initial conditions and there's many interacting participants, so maybe there are even some local metaphors or systems that you can investigate.
I've got a question. If you want to stick around and answer some questions.
Sure.
What do you think? Being in Canada, I've actually never been to Canada. What do you think are kind of the unique aspects of Canadian culture, things like that? That the complexity community broadly worldwide would be able to really embrace by Canadians into complexity, being their authentic selves and showing up would provide.
Well, one of the key things in Canada is the Official Languages Act. So we're a bilingual country. I unfortunately don't actually speak French, so that's a bit of a problem. So if we could get some people from Quebec into this, that would be also good. I don't think we have anybody. And the other thing is Canada is generally very welcoming to immigration. And it's probably the most successful country in the world for not just embracing immigrants, but also helping immigrants sort of get on their feet and land. So there's a whole lot more we need to do to make it work. But a lot of countries in the world, like Sri Lanka is a great example, where the biggest diaspora from Sri Lanka, other than India, is actually in Toronto here. And that picture, if you remember from the Vietnam War, of that woman running away from the napalm, that woman from Vietnam, she lives in Canada. She lives somewhere in Mississauga or something like that. So there's just all kinds of people who come to Canada. Just we embrace them with open arms. And the Syrian refugees, our Prime Minister said they're going to help settle 25,000 Syrian refugees. And so I think it's one thing that we're doing really, really well. And it's immigration is complex. It's very, very diverse, and it's a very complex system. Bringing people in and just helping them to kind of become. And it's not a melting pot here, it's a mosaic. So it's helping them. So there's a lot that we can, bring to the complexity movement in terms of how to embrace diversity. Obviously I'm not the best example being a, white. It's not exactly the most diverse thing possible, but maybe we can do more. Maybe there's other people in Canada who we can get in here. But yeah, great question. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. And also, we would like to appreciate and commend, this is the first place-based team. Even though it's a very large region, the Great North, it's the first time that we've seen a team say, hey, maybe we could fuse our own perspective as a country or as a region with something that's happening that's international. And so who knows, maybe we'll be able to have some Canadian hubs, or we'll be able to have some hybrid events in the coming years. Thank you.
Awesome.
You have done a great job on the live stream. Good day to you, sir.
Yeah.
See you. Thank you, Alex. And everybody in the chat, I hope that you can drop some maple flags, and he's left the chat. Perfectly timed. Royal,
wow.
Welcome to
Hi,
the live
everyone.
stream. The floor is yours. I will reset the timer. We would love to hear whatever you would like to share about for the next 5 minutes or so. Please, thanks, and take it away.
So right now I am on behalf of the project C System from Carrie, introduced from Carrie. I think it was night and no one else could join to share. So I use this platform because I think it's a cause that is very valuable, and was fascinating when she introduced it to us. She's initially a mathematician. She worked for long years in business using system dynamic to help business customers and clients. And then she realized she had a moment of realization where she took a bit of distance from this career and looked at her life and how she learned to ride a horse, and how she learned to swim, and looking very systemically to everything. And then she realized that the moment, or the reason that we stop thinking in a systemic way, is the education. And then she started a whole new approach since 2018, if I'm correct, where she started a PhD, and she introduced us all the effort that she already did introducing systemic thinking in education in UK. And it was just fascinating. I just love the idea. I think it's a long-term project that we have all and not just for UK, for the next generation, to bring new way of thinking, to actually hope for a better future. So that's the idea of the project, and we should never stop.
That's so
yeah.
That's inspiring to see the never stop on the systems perspective. Just maybe what was one piece that you found interesting, or like a new thought that you had about systems thinking from hearing Carrie's perspective and the other participants on this team?
I was fascinated by a lot of talk and sharing. I wasn't expecting that from the weekend. It's almost 2 a.m. here in Hamburg, so I'm not sleepy. I don't know, I cannot find just one and pick one, but it was amazing. I can just thank you all for the organization. I love the keynote with devs. No, it's not all the share, everything, really. Thanks all.
Thanks so much. And for all these teams that still very graciously are accepting new participants, we're going to make sure to communicate that clearly. So Roya, thanks so much for stepping up. Amazing work on the live stream. Great sweatshirt, and we'll see you at a future event.
Bye-bye.
One comes and one goes. So welcome, Nathaniel. The floor is yours. You're welcome to wait a few seconds if you'd like to allow Vanessa to join, but maybe just say hello and introduce yourself to the community. And hi, Vanessa.
Yeah, no trouble. Y'all can hear me okay?
Sounds good.
Good. My name is Nathaniel Edmonds. I'm here with Vanessa. Maybe she'll like to pronounce your own last name.
Fine, but good.
Very good. And we're working on the human nature relationships team. And, we started with, I guess, a lot of different ideas. We kind of ended up consolidating some thoughts around an essential question around essentially, like, are there some simple rules that can be used to create a sustainable culture? And the ideas that we have around that are to develop agent-based models through NetLogo to examine that and examine sustainability as an emergent property as we sort of watch culture form through these various variables and conditions that we could put in as constraints. This will obviously require a lot of defining work in terms of our terms and lots of other specifics, which is why I think I should turn to Vanessa to maybe speak to some of the ways that we interpret the word sustainability and all the factors that are in play, as many of you probably caught her expert speech earlier.
Okay, well, I'm not an expert. There's always more to learn. But so I'm a facilitator, and it was very interesting to notice how many people were so interested in this human nature interrelationship. And many ideas arose, many, and it was kind of difficult to form like a group and a project. And all of a sudden, we got into this gathered co-working group, starting writing in the board, and then all of a sudden this question arose, and it was like, wow, this is it. Like, okay. And as Nathaniel said, it needs a lot of definition, like what is sustainable, what is a culture. And it was, I mean, the whole idea was to try to model how to get sustainable outcomes from the bottom up. And so we decided, like, okay, culture is very important. What is culture? And what maybe it could relate ethics, maybe or not. But what is needed for a group of people to actually be able to persist in time without harming the nature that they depend on? And that is the question that we're gonna like to address. It's still open for people if they want to join. And the whole idea is to continue this project in time. So feel free to join. Just the key base is going to be there.
Shirley or Sean, want to ask a question to our awesome facilitators and participants here? Shirley, sounds like you have one.
Well, I was just going to commend Vanessa for, while we were meeting, I'm part of the group as well, in the whiteboard, there was an earthquake in Chile. And she said the word in Spanish, I believe. But we didn't know what the word meant, and then she had to explain. And then her internet was going in and out, and so Gabrielle, who's a geologist, said, "Oh yes, there must be aftershocks." But it was the internet. So we are truly global. And it's great to, wow, experience a little bit of that, even though I don't want to be an earthquake. But.
Well,
I'm so glad you had a geologist on the team to help with that.
yeah, that was fun.
Great. Maybe just one last question. Just what kinds of outcomes or what kinds of next steps? How do you go from this awesome question, this really beginner's mind question? Like, people have been talking about sustainability for a long time. What is the next step with connecting, thinking about complexity and sustainability? Like, I'm just curious, what is that going to look like, or what are at least your next steps on that trail?
So complexity is the core of the question, because we're dealing with human interactions and human thoughts, and the idea that nature or that humans are embedded within nature. And so the ABM models, the agent-based models, are like one of the main tools for addressing complexity. And so we're grabbing that tool for tackling the question. And then, well, the whole idea of understanding how the bottom or decision at what scale, in one scale, can emerge to the desired outcome that we want to face at the bigger scale. I guess those are the main complexity keys that we will try to address in the project.
Well, we look forward certainly to hearing at future heartbeats, at future weekends, how that continues, because we know that the weekend is just enough time to connect and get excited, and barely enough time to start on these awesome paths of work. So Vanessa or Nathaniel, anything else you want to add?
Just that it
Glad to be here.
Experience, exactly, and it was amazing to see how this could be created online. I really appreciate your work. Wow, thank you.
Thank you for being a facilitator, and Nathaniel for being a participant. So awesome times.
Thank you all.
Please depart the
Thank you.
Jitsi, and it is my pleasure to introduce our next sunglassed participant, Mr. Paul Dentropy. Please, Mr. Dentropy, introduce yourself, and I will begin a stopwatch.
Perfect. Hello, world. My name is Paul, but I like to go by Dentropy because, like all of you, I'm a dent in the universe. Today, I'm going to be presenting something I'm going to call analytical poetry. I came up with the term dentropy by combining two of my greatest fears, death and entropy, aka the heat death of the universe. I only realized I'm a dent in the universe later on. After interacting over the weekend, you might think of me as the guy with loaded questions, but I have a bunch more for you. So let's start. What does it mean that God exists within the neurons? Does it mean that the concept of God exists within neurons, or that some dialectical force is shifting humanity towards something? At the scale of our brain, at the scale that our brains operate, is natural selection taking advantage of quantum mechanics to produce intelligence, or just leveraging a bunch of chemical reactions, creating an emergent phenomenon that is who you and I are? When you do a calculation for the chemical brain, it is using about 10 to the 24 calculations per second, while the quantum brain is using 10 to the 30 calculations per second. And our data centers today operate in the lower bounds of that estimate. Now let's talk about the technological singularity. I like to define the technological singularity as a point in the future when all natural-born humans don't have the capacity to meaningfully contribute to society in a form of net gain with. Okay, I'm back.
You're back. Please continue.
Many of you think of the singularity as a pipe dream, but just hear me out for a second. Many of the AIs we use today are simply input-output systems that we feed data into so they can replicate the patterns within the data. Now, why are we feeding so much crap into these machines? Humans don't have Twitter feeds, stock history data, test scores, and translated documents. We are embodied consciousness. We might not be able to give these machines a body, but we can sure share our bodies with these machines. But what if we had clothing that could map the geospatial positions of all the bones in our body? Glasses that not only looking out into the world, but listening to us and watching our facial expressions and eye movements. Once we have all this data, we could tag it similar to how we tag self-driving car images, but we'd be tagging the human experience. And when all these events, and then you could even tag these events in real time, like talking to Alexa or Siri. Tell your classes you feel angry and why, and they will learn to empathize eventually. We might not be able to build robots for AI, but we can sure share our bodies with them. Now, we have the technology for the AI, but we lack the design skills. Now, on the topic of the technological singularity, I had a chance to talk with a couple of our industry experts about their plan afterwards. Think about it. Post-technological singularity. Food production automated from seed to kitchen table. The AI looks at you and votes on your behalf. Self-actualization available to the masses. And for some reason, we all want to go live in a cabin in the woods and raise a family. Now let's change gears. We're all familiar with the phrase, "You are the universe experiencing itself." But what does that really mean? Here's a TLDR of existence. In the beginning, someone kicked a singularity and caused a disturbance that looked like the three-body problem. A phenomenon known as fractal resonance was applied to this phenomenon on a universe. The term universe is actually a compound word, uni meaning one, verse meaning part. The universe is one pot. I like to define God as a singularity of space, time, and matter energy. Three concepts. Billions of years ago, you, I, and everyone here were part of the Big Bang, but now we aren't. If there was a Big Bang at the beginning of time, you are not something that is the result of the explosion at the end of the process. You are the process. Wait, let's integrate that. The universe is one part that started as a singularity, and one part made up of space, time, and matter energy. Each one of us is a process happening within the universe with no beginning or end. That dent in that fractal will always resonate. Since God is the universe, and you are a process in the universe, that makes you part of God. Now let's jump to the West. Some people have dreams where they stare God right in the eye and see a reflection of themselves. Other people have manic episodes. Okay, I'm back. Other people have manic episodes where they think they're Jesus. Well, the thing is that Jesus describes himself as God, the Holy Trinity, which is symbolized the sign of the cross of Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. We have a three-body problem. We have the universe as space, time, and matter energy. And then we have the Holy Trinity. The number 3 likes to rhyme. Now let's pull out another 3 quotes that really resonate. First quote, "We're all one consciousness having separate experiences." Now, let's go to Jesus Christ. "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and all your mind." That's the first law. The second law is you shall treat your neighbor as yourself. Okay, now let's go to Plato. "Know thyself." So these 3 people are actually all saying the same thing. You are the universe experiencing itself. So we are literally God having a conversation with herself. So now let's take this further. Okay, so God is the singularity of space, time, and matter energy. But space, time, and matter energy can be described as one thing: information. So the only thing that exists is self-preserving algorithms across time. So, and a uniform singularity ain't gonna have algorithms running inside it. So the differences between us allow for meaning to exist in the universe, one part. Without suffering, we can't have joy. Now here's a side fact. Cognitive dissonance is required for the human experience. Let's perform an experiment and declare war on information asymmetries in the name of eliminating suffering. Let's translate Jesus' 2 laws into terms of the 21st century. The first commandment is, a dataist ought to maximize data flow by connecting to more and more media and producing and consuming more and more information. The second commandment is, link everything to the system, including heretics who do not want to be plugged in. This dataist ideology underpins a lot of what we do. And when you think about it, and help me in the war against cognitive dissonance. Cool. Now, final stretch. There's a wonderful phrase where from one of my favorite science fiction series, which goes by, anything sufficiently weird must be fishy. So there are a lot of traditional weird conspiracies. Aliens built the pyramids, JFK assassination, 9/11, and that Israeli intelligence officer who was a little too high up to be talking about the Galactic Federation and the bunker on Mars filled with corpses of ancient hominids. Those things can all be explained rationally. But what about other weird events? For example, spooky action at a distance, where information travels faster than light. That's weird. And I'm going to go out on a whim here and say that's fishy. Then there's free will. When you look at free will from a scientific point of view, people claim that it's all predetermined or founded upon complete randomness. To me, that... All right, I'm back. All right, to me, that's a contradiction, and that's a little fishy. And then there's Google, who went on that buying spree of all those robotics companies and did what with them? That's just weird. But then there's the Intel Compute Module, which is which has been in every Intel CPU since 2008. That functions as a completely separate CPU, running its own operating system and separately implemented TCP/IP stack. That compute model just happens to have public keys just sitting there in memory. To me, that's fishy. Then there's the Hegelian dialectic. It seems to me that there are guide rails on human progress leading us in a specific direction. Here's an example of the Hegelian dialectic. Greece was too open, which led to Persia conquering it, and Persia was too militaristic, leading to Rome appearing on the scene. Sounds like a pinball game to me. Here's another example. The fact that we do not...
I can't take another one.
All right. The fact that we did not experience nuclear war is a little weird. For example, when you consider that Stolipov disobeyed the entire Soviet Union and held the entire globe on its hands, single-handedly stopping nuclear war, that's a little weird, but I don't know if it's fishy. Here's another one. Noah's Ark was used to survive a flood. Atlantis was destroyed by a flood. That's a weird coincidence. And then we had graphical user interfaces, operating systems, before we landed on the moon. Okay, so this is this video everyone should look up, the mother of all demos. The technology was sitting right there, and it took decades to get reinvented. That's a little weird to me. Then there was Project Xandu, which still happens to be vaporware for some reason. So, check out the Wikipedia page. And it describes, the perfect functioning internet that we'd all want to live in. Yeah, it's a dead project. So maybe we can fix that. So the Dentropy Daemon team is looking for alpha testers to try out our platform and learn what apps people want to run. So, so message me on Keybase. I'm Dentropy.
Dentropy,
Wow.
under budget and ahead of schedule. What else can I add at this time? Thank you for your presentation and for being a participant. We really appreciate it. I think we need to take a quick breath. Let's all take a deep breath in as we prepare for Blue to join the stream. So Dentropy, peace. Close the Jitsi.
And thank you.
Thank you all to Paul. Thanks for bearing with that and for hopefully reading between the lines, connecting the dots. And if it interests you, you definitely know who to message. So that was pretty rapid and pretty fast paced.
What else?
So Blue, you could mute the YouTube tab, but welcome to Facilitator Blue, Intermission Blue. We're going to take a quick breath. Blue, with your mandala in the background, recenter us, and then we're going to be hearing from the asynchronous presentations where we'll play the videos in the background.
I don't know if I can recenter you after Paul just threw the singularity on us. I don't know. That was pretty crazy. But let's just all take a breather, rest, open your mind, allow some space to come in. It's like we need a palate cleanser after that.
Blue, what was your favorite part of the weekend or one thing that stood out to you while I prepare the next stage of the videos?
I've got to say the gather space was wicked fun. And I mean, I'm just I'm going to rattle this box. I'm so bad. I'm sorry. I'm the most high maintenance facilitator. I need all this stuff put in this special way for me. And yeah, I'm going to crash my own computer and all that stuff. But I don't know. I like to push the boundaries. What can I say?
All right. Well, we have 5 videos that we're going to play. And so for these 5 videos, we're just going to watch them. For those on the stream, you actually may not hear the audio because I'm not piping it that way, but just enjoy, and I'll let you know when the video is done. And again, for those who are in the cohort on the single source of truth, in the coming few days, we're going to be updating the spreadsheet so that we're reflecting which teams are still looking to have people join. So not every team is for you, but maybe one of these will speak to you and we'll make it clear which ones are looking for new participants. So the first team that we're going to be hearing from is called, let me get this one up. It's called So What? Complexity in Organizations. And we are going to hear from them right now. Let me just get this layout in OBS correct. All right. I'm going to have to change the cropping. Maybe Shirley or Sean, just give one quick thought while I recrop.
I'm still processing. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm trying to stay upright in my chair because I'm in danger of falling over.
I just want to thank. I want to thank Blue actually for her live session and pushing that envelope, because pushing Gather's envelope is like, that's great. That's what we all need to be doing so that the next cycle we have a whole new set of interactions that we know how to do. So thank you for doing that. That was really cool.
Yep, Blue, and I look forward to seeing where the experiment goes. So at this point, I am going to be playing the video, So What? Complexity in Organizations.
Hello. Let me present you the outcome of our teamwork. The name of our team is So What? Complexity in the Organizations. And so we spent a few very interesting hours together with Kai, Roy, John, and Stefano, and myself, Jelena. And the first thing that came out was this picture that you see, where this is our everyday life when we explain very simple things, and then people go back to their everyday work and don't find this simplicity there. And so what united us all together was the reflection: how can we bring complexity awareness to the business? And so what is the major problem that we are living every day is that this saying, for every complex problem there is an answer that is clear, simple, and wrong, is indeed the part of our everyday life. And we were thinking, what can we do about that? How can we communicate about the complexity? And we came with a term that we liked very much: complexity awareness mindset. And we thought that we should define this, and if we define it well, it will help us to trigger the interest in managers and the organizations. Also, we were asking ourselves, why is it so difficult to introduce complexity notions in the organization? Probably because of the lack of complexity awareness. Then the question was, who needs actually to know? Because if somebody is happy without that and is working well, why should we disturb the things that work? And so there are two types of thinking that we can have. Are some organizations in the need more than others of this concept of complexity? This is one approach that we can take. And the other approach is how can we tell which organizations can be open to complexity? So maybe some organizations are just waiting for the concept to pop up and to explain what they are living and to help them in living better. And so what would be our next steps? We were quite enthusiastic about the idea of making a video where we will explain complexity in a way that it could bring the interest of the business. And we thought that it could be interesting to, thanks to this video or to other actions, to bring more people related to Business and Complexity Week next time, and to have more topics that are focused on businesses, because definitely there is a lot of things to tell around that in our everyday life. So thank you for your attention. This is what we came in our teamwork.
Awesome. Thanks so much for that video. That was complexity from a little bit more of an organizational and a communication-centric perspective. So again, we're going to update the spreadsheet with people's Keybase usernames and whether they're looking for new participants to join. But that was that first team that we had a asynchronous presentation from, which was the So What? Complexity in organizations. So awesome work in a very important topic. We're now going to turn to the second one, which is going to be Project Albatross. So
hello, everyone.
I'm going to start this video and we'll transition over to the OBS view that has this video. So enjoy Project Albatross, which is going to be a 3-minute and 30-second video. So enjoy it.
Hello, everybody. Hope you all had a great complexity weekend. We want to talk a little bit about our project, Project Albatross. We started this project during the pre-weekend phase of the complexity weekend, and by the end of this, we have an initial working of the model that we had in mind. So the question we were trying to analyze was, how is the information ecosystem and the economic systems on the internet are interrelated and connected, in the hopes of trying to create some sort of a policy to regulate the information disorder that is rampant right now. So far in the project, we have built an agent-based model. We've just made it very simple. We just have 3 agents: users, platforms, and advertisers. And we have, made the interactions between them just simple, random interactions, just to get started and have some skeleton code to get the ball rolling. You can check out our GitHub to look at the state of the code right now. The link to the GitHub is on the screen right now. So what are we going to do next? So we want the model to get more nuanced. We just have, as I said, random interactions, but we want the model to become better. We want the interactions to become better. If you have ideas for new agents, we would love to hear. If you have ideas for new interactions, we would love to hear. And we also need a way to validate our data, validate our model, right? Some data to validate our model. We're also looking for an endpoint. So we build the model and what to do with it, right? So we're looking for some sort of an endpoint, some sort of a policy recommendation that you're probably a policymaker and you have a recommendation in mind and you want to check if it will be effective. You can talk to us and maybe we will design our model so that we can test that recommendation. So if you're interested in the ideas and you want to contribute, we would highly recommend that you join our Keybase team, which is Project Albatross. Right now, we're just doing some literature review, and we're thinking of meeting back again a couple of weeks later, which is on June 13th. Exactly the time on June 13th, we will decide based on the people in our Keybase and their time zones. Right? So thank you to everybody, especially to the organizers. They put in a lot of effort to make this weekend an absolute success. I want to especially thank Bernardo, Kishore, John, and Didier for taking the time to give us some valuable suggestions and for discussions. So we hope to meet you all in our Keybase team, and maybe we will meet face-to-face on June 13th. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much as well, Venkatesh. You had the idea, you put us together, you contributed, you worked at endless hours. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Kishore, as well.
Awesome. I hope you're getting, all viewers in live and replay, a little taste of some of these amazing projects. Sean, I know you can't wait to share something about Project Albatross.
Yeah, it was a great team, and I got to interact a bit with Venkatesh in one of the paired learning environments in Gather, and it was actually really fun because we were sitting there, opening up this ABM that they were working on in Python code, and just kind of like pair programming on it. And I just thought it was so cool to see a team. We kind of stressed in the organizers. We're like, oh, you don't have to deliver anything for the weekend. You have to focus on what is your shared purpose. What team, what do you want to do together? How are you going to stay connected? And that's kind of the priority. But they really jumped into like, I want to build this model. And they got this idea for this model down and they just jumped right into it. And it was really just a fun learning experience for me to sit with Venkatesh and just, look through the documentation of this cool ABM library called like Mesa and Python. And they were starting to plug it in and just learning about what they're trying to do with this model. So I just wanted to shout out that it was a really cool experience for me to just like as a facilitator in that moment to just experience that. So yeah, thanks to them.
Anything else that either Shirley or Blue you'd like to add? I know you didn't probably hear the audio, but just getting a little sense of the different projects that we're seeing. What's something that remarks on you? Or I have 3 more videos I can queue up.
I was just going to say that, these projects or these presentations are really diverse also in kind of process-wise. Project Albatross really came together, as they said, during the pre-weekend. And there was a lot of conversation that really then, blasted out of I think it was the economics channel, Explore Economics. And so a lot of voices initially, or a lot of input. And out of it grew a project with a smaller subset of people, but yet, that was an interesting example. And then there are many others where people jumped on. Maybe they, I don't know for sure, but maybe weren't really engaging as much or for as long, and came on at different places, and yet were able to come together and participate fully.
Great points. I totally agree. I was just typing out in the chat. I won't send it. Bernardo, facilitator, you really started the discussion early, and you signaled that you were willing to be a facilitator from the middle, and you attended, pre-weekend events. You showed up on Keybase, and that helped participants feel included, able to share their perspective and their differences in skills. And it's so awesome that there is a minimal product, and the minimal product seen in light of your all's vision is just awesome. So I can't wait to see where that goes. Blue, anything to add, or we can play another video?
Only that I've been trying to connect with these guys, and I really am dying to poke that project a little bit. So I can't wait and to see how it unfolds, and to have the chance to really get to do that. The weekend's been busy.
Right, because your middle name is actually Agent-Based Model, right? Cool. The next video we're going to play is Blue's video.
I'm excited.
Or Blue's team. So this is going to be the Data Party team. We're going to hear from Blue Knight and Eduardo Freitas. So this is going to be about 5-minute video. And again, please enjoy everybody who is watching.
I'm excited to present the results from the Data Party group, which consists of myself, Blue Knight, and Eduardo Freitas. We looked at data that I had scraped from a group that was public on Facebook called the Quarantine Party. And it was a public Facebook group until April 1st, 2021, and consists of about 18,000 members. The group was started in Philadelphia in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. We just started with an analysis for November and December of 2020, just for the purpose of this weekend and exploring the data set. The rules of the group are pretty simple. They're be nice, no hate speech, bullying, harassment, including body shaming, no spam, no dead links, be positive, not to promote negativity, leave out politics, which as an admin for the group, this was the hardest one to enforce throughout the COVID year because things became political that we didn't expect to become political. No misinformation, and that kind of got really crazy when Facebook started like deleting misinformation posts. So no duplicate posts, respect the moderators, and then nothing pornographic like that Facebook would delete already. So that was the group rules, just for context. And we analyzed the comments, the reactions, and the shares for all the posts in November and December, and found that really there's no correlation between how many comments are made and how many reactions are made. And like the reasons for this will kind of become evident as we progress through the video. So here's a scatter plot on the right and just a line graph on the left. We also looked at a correlation between the comments, how much a post was shared, and then the different reactions to the post, like, love, wow, laughing, sad, angry, whether it was pictures that were added or a story that was shared or a video that was added. And really we found that the posts that are shared the most are wow and sad. So if something makes someone go wow, or if something makes someone sad, they're the most likely to share those kinds of posts. But also like was shared. Love was not shared that much, which is kind of strange. And then we probed a little deeper into the posts that had a lot of comments. So this is one example of how you can see like why there might not be a lot of reactions to this post where it says, what do you call the end piece of bread? So this might not get a lot of likes or loves or wows or happy or sad, but a lot of responses in text in the comments. And so we just through a frequency analysis of these 20,000 people and what they call the end of the bread, the heel is the predominant one. This is a frequency analysis. So the bigger the word is, the more used it was. So the heel, then the butt, the end, all kinds of other garbage was in there. So bird food, all kinds of things that people call the bread. And then this was a funny post that was introduce yourself as something that almost killed you. So we deleted the common words like, hello, my name is whatever, but these are kinds of the things that people had been almost killed by. This was another funny post that is, which one of these foods would you delete from life forever? Bacon, tacos, donuts, or sushi? And donut was like the prevailing winner. Nobody likes donuts. And then lots of other words were, peppered into the comments as well. So what we would like to really do next is look at the data that we still have. So we still have 10 months of data, find maybe trending topics, do some sentiment analysis, and analyze the use of emojis in the how in text emojis are used, the frequency analysis of which emojis are used, not the reactions, but in the text comments themselves. And then meme analysis, which is really hard, and people know that I've been thinking about how we should develop a meme analysis pipeline for quite a while. So we still have room for plenty of people that want to join our team. So if you are interested, reach out. We made our own Keybase team called Data Party. So if you're interested and want to work on this kind of work, please get in touch. All right. Thanks so much for your attention. I hope you enjoyed Complexity Weekend.
Lou, nice work. Great project. So it looks like the few of you are back, and we played the video. So maybe, Sean, if you have a first question, otherwise I'm happy to ask something to Blue.
Not a question, just a comment. I'm in that Facebook group and it's hilarious. Thank you for me.
I'm curious, what kinds of things do you want to analyze, or how are we going to bring complexity into this picture?
So, I mean, it can take a lot of different angles, I think. So we're really trying to determine if user identity is consistent, because they do a pretty good job at anonymizing the users. So if user identity is consistent, we've also, Eduardo was awesome with analysis, just bam, bam, just all over it, which was cool. He's doing a lot of language processing right now for his PhD. So he changed, when you read out an emoji from a text, you get like Unicode character UD384 or whatever. Like it doesn't come out as the emoji. So he put them all back into emojis, which is kind of neat. And really, like, if we can get the user profile, can we develop like an emoji signature? And Dan, I think I've talked to you about this before. Like when I text, the way that I text is really specific to the way that I talk. Like it's not like I've noticed that my text messages are like that. And so like, is there a signature, like a signature way like that people use it? Like you use classically signature emoji ant all the time, right? And so then you've developed like a little cohort of little ant creatures in your nest, right? that are also all using ants now. So like what is the emoji use signature? I'm super interested to look at that. And is there like a fingerprint analysis we can do, but also maybe looking at the social network, looking at just behavior overall with emojis, like which ones are the most popular? I mean, and also sentiment analysis. We want to get out of there and find maybe trending topics through the pandemic. And I mean, it's all complex, right? So I don't know. Text in and of itself, just analyzing language is complex.
Very true. To go from a linear string, whether it's of words or Unicode characters, to semantics, to meaning, is certainly a topic within complexity. And you've mentioned kind of the propagation of emoji use. And something I've been curious about is like, what about the symbols that people don't use and the phrases that people don't use? Because when we think of signature, whether it's a cryptographic signature or good old-fashioned pen on paper, it's what you do. But when we're talking about these large-scale data analyses, it could be possible to find what people don't do. And maybe there's somebody who never hits the love, and they wouldn't think, oh, I'm blending in because I'm using what is common. But then they forget that there's a common thing that they're actually not utilizing. So it's kind of like the dog that didn't bark in the night, except now there's thousands of dogs, and maybe some of them are barking and some are not. So that'll be quite interesting to see. And also, thanks everyone for the great positive comments about these presentations. We've seen quite a range from data analysis on empirical data from social media to simulations ab initio, just from the baseline, new ideas forming with simulations, to wild theological speculation, all the way out to organizational thinking. And so it just reflects the kinds of people who are being drawn together. And I don't know, if you would have asked any of these people a couple weeks ago, would they have said that they were going to join a team like this? I don't know. Blue pulling a Paul rejoins. What was he saying? I'm back.
It's cracking me up.
Awesome. Well, we're going to keep moving along. We are going to play the 2 remaining videos. So the next video that we're going to be playing is from the ActInf lab. So let me just cue this one right up. This is going to be the ActInf lab, the Active Inference lab, and they're going to be talking about active inference applied to Complexity Weekend. So thanks for this awesome project and the video recording for those of you who are watching it live or in replay. Let's hear this 5-minute video, and then we'll see you in just a few minutes.
Hello, everyone. We are Active Inference Lab team, and we want to present you basic application of Active Inference framework to Complexity Weekend. Active Inference, an emergent scale-free framework within cognitive and computational neuroscience, underpinning the way organisms act and observe in the real world, proposed that agents act to maximize the evidence for its generative models, or reducing uncertainty about the world. One of the main concepts from active inference and free energy principle is Markov blanket, and its defined boundary of different systems and distinguish it from environment. So it's possible to apply it to cells, organs, animals, and even social groups. So also we can consider nesting of Markov blankets in the environment. And as for global informational environment where complexity we can operate in, there are also other entities like academia, industry, and individuals, and different types of possible nesting of Markov blankets presented on this schema. And we want to have closer look on the scale of complexity weekend and also to the individual scale. And as for complexity weekend, as an agent which is reducing uncertainty about its environment, it needs to understand how to find out which kind of community it is, how it needs to act, so the nesting and other blankets can learn complexity by doing, and how teams could be organized in the most efficient way. So complexity weekend as a Markov blanket should have interfaces, and they are website, Gmail, registration form, and YouTube, and they have different purpose for action and perception. And at individual scale within complexity weekend, where it's used in our interfaces like Keybase and Gather, also with different action perception aims. And we want to tell you a story about Bob in active inference language.
Bob feels good about himself. Yeah, he's curious about complexity, and he uses the interface to opt into a team, and he's doing this on Keybase. And at the moment, Bob is existing in just the context of Complexity Weekend. After he opts in to the team over Keybase, he moves to the other interface, Gather. He walks into the team co-working space, at which point Bob is now shifted from the global context of Complexity Weekend to that of the team. And at this moment, Bob realizes that he needs to be interacting with the people inside the team. So he asks the team, what would be the best way to get ramped up and be useful to the conversation? He's acting to minimize uncertainty. Bob hears some comments and sees some links sent over from his team. These are the cues, but it confuses Bob. He doesn't know what any of it means. Bob starts to consume the content that he found through those links. This is the action he's chosen to take to update his generative model. Afterwards, Bob now has a better understanding. He's effectively reduced uncertainty and achieved his goal. Bob can now go back to the team with an updated state and be curious about other hidden states.
So that's the whole story about Bob, and thank you, and may the gradient be with you.
What a nice presentation. Thanks to Alex, to DistantX, and also to the other narrators and speakers and participants on that team, and really all these teams. It's awesome. Just the first thing that video remarked on me was a combination of a sort of big thinking systems engineering approach, like map the system, thinking big about what are systems and what are the patterns across scales. Those are kind of familiar topics to complexity, and then making it real with an example and a narrative that helps us find harmony with our own experience. I mean, this weekend, did we not all jump into a conversation and have uncertainty about what the question was or what the topic was? So it was very relatable and also conveyed a lot of understanding of systems engineering and systems perspectives. So Blue, and then anyone else.
So I just think that was awesome. Like, it was a really lighthearted and fun and clear way to explain active inference, which I don't know. I've been trying to understand active inference for like maybe almost a year, and I'm still like, what happened? So good job, guys, and good job making it relatable to the folks at CW.
Nice. Sean?
I just want to highlight, Dan, you work with Alex, right, on Active Inference Lab.
Yeah.
I just want to know, Yeah, and Luke, nice. I want to know just kind of from both of you here, what is it open to new members, and what is the kind of shared purpose of the team, and just a little bit at that level.
So Active Inference Lab is a participatory lab that's learning active inference by doing kind of the way that we're learning complexity by doing, but we have a slightly different focus in the Active Lab. And I think one thing that's exciting is to see how the Active Lab is it's nested boundaries, right? It's people who are joining into relationships, teams, and a lab that has some organizational units and some other structures inside. And then the way that there was able to be a recombination, and we were able to onboard people not into Active Lab in the narrow sense through the usual mechanisms, but actually through this complexity window, and to bring new perspectives and new participants into a project where they're learning by doing both complexity and Active Inference Lab. I mean, it's something I'm just looking forward to participating in the coming months. What would you say to that, Blue?
So just to kind of add on, like the Active Inference Lab is we're constantly doing these live streams and having different people from different backgrounds, like philosophy of science and mathematics and computation and cognitive neuro and psychiatry. And so all these kind of people come together, like with this common connection of active inference, which is why it's like, I like, it's continually blowing my mind, right? It's so fun, which is why, like, I think I said on the last live stream, like, you have to constantly keep me engaged and learning new things. Otherwise I get bored and I check out. So like, I can't get a hold of it. I can't get ahead of it. And it keeps me on my toes and learning and running around and having fun. And I think it makes it approachable for people that come from a variety of disciplines. So you can step in at a point where you have an entry point, you have some common ground, like, oh, I know a little bit about philosophy. Approach it from that angle, right? Some sociology, approach it from that angle, and then it'll let you, it's like a bridge that lets you jump into active in, lots of different deeper ways, maybe.
And one resonance with complexity and systems and so many other topics, as well as active inference, is like when somebody says, wait a minute, I'm not certain here. I'm having uncertainty. I'm not sure what's happening, or I'm not sure about that. We're studying the framework that helps us address that uncertainty. So if we were just studying how to do a skill or a disciplinary approach, then it would be like your uncertainty, the less uncertainty, the better. And then if you're uncertain, it's like, well, you're not going to be a high performing team member. But just like in complexity, we say that it's the beginners who are bringing the questions and the perspectives that help the team have an emergent outcome that's so important. In active inference, it's kind of like the study of uncertainty reduction across scales. And so asking questions about active inference is kind of the whole of learning it. Sean, you can mute if you want. Well, any other comments on that? Otherwise, we have one more video to play. Cool. Let's go to this last video. So give me 1 second to transition over. We are going to hear now about a 5-minute video. Wow, 4 minutes and 59 seconds. Some people are quite literal with these 5-minute suggestions. And we're going to hear from Network Weaver, which is, again, a multi-person team. So let's look forward to hearing 5 minutes from Network Weaver.
Recording is on.
Hello, everyone. My name is Carolina, and I'm representing the Network Weavers team. We want to take a look at a situation that is very common in online platforms and knowledge networks, and which has to do with the lack of network resilience. In lots of online platforms, online gatherings, we see networks form, we see teams form, but then over time they degrade. We are not sure why people are dropping out of teams, out of networks, why there are certain connections that should be made between teams or between people that are not happening, what is happening over time, why are we losing participants, why is collaboration potential not being tapped into. The exact causes are unknown. We do have some speculation as to why participants leave, but we think that if this is not addressed, basically we're missing out on a lot of opportunities for knowledge sharing and discovery, lots of potential for collaboration. So we want to get some insight into all of these unknowns. and we want to use Complexity Weekend as sort of a little window into this problem. And what we are aiming to do is to effectively increase the rate of relationship development, knowledge sharing, and resilience of the network, and in general to improve the Complexity Weekend team knowledge discovery. Our avenues of approach, we want to experiment with some actions that could lessen the problem by devising a roadmap. We want to take a heuristic approach versus a more empirical experimentation approach. We want to be able to try out the concepts without needing the data to validate trying them out, just something that feels right and having a gut check, seeing in retrospect whether it makes sense. We want to start by prototyping two potential roles, which don't need to be things that are fixed and very formal. One of them would be an interfacer, which would be someone in a team that communicates back with the core of the Complexity Weekend organizers, and that reports a little bit over time about the relationships, what's happening if people are dropping out, just as a point of contact. Another role that we would like to prototype would be the role of a weaver. This idea is just to take a little bit also off the workload that the core organizers had this weekend. We saw Sean and Dan just actively trying to help people into teams while already taking up all of the other organizing tasks. So we would like to have some people taking this role of going out, meeting people, helping make connections, and also empowering others to do it in a far more informal way. We are considering some ideas for this, such as using friendship models, some gamification to create connections, like a speed dating, but this is still all very, we're still working on it. One of our first milestones would be to develop a first draft of a framework for these roles and for network weaving within the Complexity Weekend. We want to, in the near future, be able to maybe get some volunteer interfacers to experiment with us, test out the idea so that we are able to map their teams and work with them to make sure that they are coming to the next heartbeats and then to the next weekends. And finally, we would like to have a couple of ready to welcome weavers for the next iteration of Complexity Weekend. By acting on all of these, we are recognizing that socio-technical systems are complex, but if we increase the likelihood of making connections within the network by even just a few %, it could have huge impacts on turnover, team and knowledge discovery, and relationship development. If you are interested in this idea, or if you would like to experiment with us, if you would think that you are interested in playing one of these roles, please do reach out. We are very open to it, since this will be a thing bit for the long run. Thank you, everyone.
Nice. Great video, and thanks for that presentation to the teams. Wow. So many amazing team presentations, and whether it was the geographical, the conceptual, or the community level, something that's really standing out is that people are focusing on their local system. It's the ideas that they're working with, it's the people they're working with, the systems they want to have impact on. And so, Sean, I know you're always reminding us to like speak with the stakeholders, and speaking with the stakeholders is so important, and to be embedded within the network of stakeholders and to include participants who are in those situations and in that context is just, it's another level. It's not like we're going to write a paper and then send a PDF to somebody who might be influenced to then wait a few months and then think about that for the next paper. This is a feedback of the kind that honestly I haven't seen, because it's a totally different way of working when we're getting the feedback along the way with people who are being influenced by the system, and we're starting with our own community, in our own systems of interest. So Sean, and then any other comments, Shirley or Blue, and then we'll turn back to the slides.
Yeah, I mean, I think this team really blew me out of the water because this seems to be kind of a thing that happens at these Complexity Weekend events, and this is one of the things I love about this community is we all get so passionate about this experience and about paying it forward and making it better for the next wave of participants and facilitators and organizers. And there's been several teams now that have come online within this community of practice to aid the community of practice and other entities outside. Like we always encourage them, be general. We're your first, stakeholder, your first customer, wherever they end up organizing into. But, we've had Legend of Gather that helped us really understand onboarding into Gather, right? We've had Dentry Damon, which really helped us understand, how we're able to understand the engagement in Keybase and eventually in Gather when that API opens up. And now we have this team, which lets us understand how can we keep people engaged and really, close those triads and kind of keep that network, as, whatever optimal means in this situation, but like kind of optimal. Like we want that cohort to be tight and we want people not to feel left out. And we want them we don't want to lose some really valuable, diverse perspectives just because maybe they didn't get engaged early enough or didn't quite feel included when they needed to. And so this blows me away. And it's just another example of another reason I love this community.
And that idea of sort of acting first and stepping into the gap to form the team, and then finding something that's naturally arising within the community. Like we all probably many times of the weekend, you have a cool conversation with person A, and then a similar topic with B, and B tells you that they spoke with C. Okay, so there's Connect 4. A, B, C, and you should find a co-working space or get on a Keybase channel, but it will dissipate because we come through the bottleneck of the weekend and it will dissipate. If you don't connect on a chat thread, or if you don't find a communication avenue to stay connected, like Sudebi and Probal and Sid reminded us earlier, if you don't stay connected, it will dissipate, period. If you're not connected on the tools, it's not going to somehow connect for you. So how can we help people with a human interface stay connected? And it's just awesome because we had people stepping up and saying, I want to give feedback. I want to be there as a sounding board. I want to hear your pitch. I don't care how early or how draft it is. That's what I love. I'm not going to be there giving hours per week, but I want to be there, maybe to give feedback through time and maybe even through deep time. So to see how a natural role then can get connected to the organizers. Like I'm pretty sure that for November, when all of us are involved as facilitators and organizers, we're going to contact that team and we're going to ask, how can we stabilize that role? And it's going to be like, instead of just bottom up and top down, it's almost like bottom up and side to side, because we're going to be alongside and stabilizing laterally as new energy and roles and perspectives are emerging from the bottom. So that is epic. Any other thoughts here, or I'll turn back to the slides. Cool. And if there's any questions in the live chat, by the way, we're going to turn back to the slides for now, but feel free to just post a question there. And if there's anything we can address, we for sure will. So at this point, I'm going to bring us back to the slides, put those up on the front and figure out which OBS window it is. Okay, I think I found it. That was the team presentations. So seriously, amazing work from the teams, and that wasn't even all of them. We know that there was other teams and other relationships that formed, but this was just the teams that in that few quick hours of the weekend were able to surface their work in a recording or in that live presentation. And there's more. Teams were forming before, during, and after. And so that's just one way that we're surfacing some of the teams and what they have gotten up to. I'm going to flip to slide 19, which is a few ways you can stay involved. So maybe Sean, want to give us a quick rundown here?
Yeah, definitely. So this is really just the beginning of our relationship together as a cohort and as a community of practice. And we really want to kind of stress that with this slide. We have heartbeats, like we've been saying. Every month there isn't a cohort. So that means next month, the last weekend of the month is when they occur. That's the first heartbeat. And everyone here is invited. Everyone from other cohorts is invited. You'll mix and mingle with whole other cohorts of amazing people, just like you met in this cohort. And so just to be clear, June 26th, 27th, the last weekend, save the date. That's the first heartbeat after this cohort. And we've already got on this slide, and we'll link the slides into the program right next to these live streams. For all the ones that we've done, all the decks will be linked right there. Just go to the closing deck, look at the closing row in the program, click this deck. You can get these bit.ly links or just grab them now or look at the live stream. But if you go to this bit.ly, that's the RSVP to be a facilitator, to step up and be a facilitator during a heartbeat. The more the merrier, honestly. And then joining as a participant, right? So RSVP now, go ahead and get it in now so that we can remind you via email when it's time to come together again. So that's the heartbeat. The next biannual weekend hackathon, it's already on the books. This is all scheduled out kind of on a standing calendar every year. This is the deep time component of what we're doing. It's consistent. We want it to be very consistent. And if you can't happen to make it to the last weekend of one particular month, that's okay. There's another event coming the last weekend of the next month. And we just have the standing calendar going. And so the standing calendar, the next one is November. Usually the last weekend, in this case, it's off by one. But 12th to the 14th of November is the next weekend cohort. You're welcome to join as a participant, to step up as a facilitator, to step up as a co-organizer. And these are all things that we need to keep this energy going and this great experience. And we had to pay that forward to the next generation. So the next heartbeat, the next weekend, you've got all the links you need there. Go and email complexityweekend@gmail.com if you're interested in organizing. We will ask that you organize a heartbeat first before you organize the weekend cohort. They're different experiences. The organizing a heartbeat's much more casual. There's a lot more commitment to organizing a weekend, but it's really fun. And it's really worth it. And then lastly, our cohort's Keybase team will always be here. We'll always be in here. So you can always ping any of the Explore channels. You can ping general if you just want to let our cohort know of something, or keep the conversation going. And our actually, I need to put it on the slide. I'll edit it after this. The gather space will always be up. We won't have the bandwidth that we have now, where we can maybe have 60 at once, 80 at once, whatever. But we will have it'll run really well for like 30 at once or something like that. And if we end up getting a lot of people there, we'll pull out of the CW coffers and throw some bandwidth down. It's worth it for any interaction that we get in this community. So I'll put the gather there, and then the public Keybase team, which I was mentioning, that all cohorts and all participants in Heartbeats fall into. Everyone will be dumped into that right after this, and we're going to be learning how to make that a great space. It's getting quite large now, so we need to understand the dynamics of that and how to use it as a community practice so it's as effective as it can be. And then lastly, on social media, this is something, because the organizer bandwidth isn't so high right now. That's your call to action. Come in, join the organizer circle. There isn't much happening on social media, except all the live streams do go to YouTube. So that's at least there right now. On Twitter, some tweets. Actually, no, we've Shirley really helped at actually getting a lot of the facilitator profiles out this time through, I think, I'm not sure if it was Twitter this time, but definitely Facebook and I think LinkedIn, which I have to add to this slide as well. So there is a presence out there, and interacting with that helps others get excited about joining this community of practice. Anything to add about staying involved?
Yep, I'll give a few thoughts, and then either Shirley or Blue. So first, we always recognize new areas to improve on, like social media. Our social media is actually you, if you're listening, because word of mouth is probably the best and most authentic way for our community to grow. When somebody just says, grabs a friend and says, look, you don't think you've done complexity, but we've talked about XYZ topic. You remember that. Just come on. It sounds wacky. Just join this event. That's the most powerful way to bring someone in, because you're being that human interface. That's the real social media. We don't need a platform. We don't need surveillance capitalism. We don't need a third party. We just need to build community the way that communities are actually built. And then also, there's so many sides that we're trying to learn and develop on. So if there's something that you thought it could have been better, instead of just thinking it was inferior, but if you thought it could have been better, then that's where the feedback is important. And that's why we're always looking to include new perspectives in the organizing and in the facilitation, especially. Participation, it's no barrier. All backgrounds and familiarity with complexity are welcome. And then especially for facilitators and co-organizers and the keynote, where we kind of do have that degree of freedom to choose and to curate, that's where we want to highlight the diversity of time zones, skill sets, backgrounds, everything because it's the few degrees of freedoms that organizers have is actually to collaborate with other co-organizers and to choose facilitators who are going to lead from the middle and going to be that center of gravity for the team, just like we've seen all of our amazing facilitators do this weekend. So that was really something special to see. And the email is our best point of reference. Even if you're just curious, like this flew by on the live stream, what about that? Email complexityweekend@gmail.com, and we're going to be there to respond. Shirley, and then anyone else.
Oh yeah, I was just going to say that through my experience these last several months, it's been a journey as well of complexity, and a lot of things that we're learning as we're doing, and we're experiencing, and of course we are responding to feedback as well. So feedback is so critical. I mean, otherwise we're in our house here on our laptop interacting with each other, and that's obviously not the full community, but just a few people. And so it really is the entire community. And also interactions can be as people find appropriate. And so I've discovered in my experience that sometimes, it just takes a lot of different forms. There are some emails. There are comments on the purpose and values document that come in. And if you've made comments there, and if you have your comment notifications turned on, you'll get this email. I have no idea sometimes who people, actually most times I don't know who they are. And there's a running commentary about this document. And I thought that was very interesting because, it just comes out of the blue. So many different ways to communicate, but just, do it. Do it if you want. And hopefully we'll be able to come together and make sense of it and grow and learn from it.
Yep. And the two links I'll highlight first is this bit.ly/CW May 2021 feedback. It's posted in the live chat. That's really essential. No matter how much you liked which parts of the weekend or the total experience, this is important. We're a system that needs feedback to calibrate and to recalibrate as we go into the next cycle, starting to organize for the heartbeat in just a couple days, and for the next weekend in a couple of weeks when we restart and when we really take stock of all this amazing feedback. So first point would be, please fill out the feedback and encourage others who are on your teams and the people you met to fill out the feedback. Definitely reaching out to them to stay connected and to continue the discussion. That's powerful. But as organizers, we ask you to fill out the feedback form, because that's how we're going to be able to compile in one place all these awesome pieces of feedback that people want to provide us, rather than the ones that they just sort of scattered throughout the weekend. And the second is a link that's in the live chat, which is our Living Our Purpose and Values document. So that's what Shirley was alluding to. It's a commentable document, and you'll see some unpackings and some sort of works in progress on all kinds of things related to purpose, values, guidelines. And if you read down to the bottom of the document, you'll find not just the stuff that we've covered on the streams about how purpose generates values and values leads to guidelines, but you'll also see how we've aligned over time with a point by point on the kinds of things that we've done. And I don't even think that it includes a lot of the changes from this cohort. And you'll also see a section on what potentially requires alignment. So again, that's an area where if you think, oh, I do that every day, or that's the kind of thing I love to do on the weekend, then come do it with Complexity Weekend, because that would be awesome. Any other thoughts or comments on that?
Blue, what do you think?
Yeah, Blue.
I don't know. I had my hand up, I think, to say, like, you still use email, you boomer? No, I'm just kidding. It's really hard to get a hold of me by email. So I don't know how many other people are feeling overwhelmed by all of like the things. So come and check in, even if it's just in Keybase. It's a good way to get in touch with people, because sometimes if people do email, there's like a repercussion change or whatever. I stuck my hand up. But I don't know, facilitation really, like there's lots of different ways to facilitate, lots of different distances to facilitate from. So many of the facilitators are like right in there working on projects, hashing things out. And then like, so I've danced with facilitation through the complexity weekends. I've done it from a distance. I've done it kind of from the mid-range. I've done it like right in there. And so, you know, don't be afraid to get involved in that way. Even if it's kind of, you're not sure at what length you want to dance from. That's my only other comment.
Yep. Many styles of dancing, many roles. There's the roles that we continue to sort of augment and modify. And then there's, as we've seen, there's the roles that just take the organizers by total surprise. And it's kind of like the dance move we were all waiting for. And it's the thing that arises out of the community. And that novelty and holding the space for it and knowing that our base layer is community. And our base layer isn't like a shared knowledge understanding. It's not even a shared linguistic understanding, but it's actually just the understanding that we're going to be there for each other, showing up synchronously, asynchronously. I like email. I don't like email. It's all good. You'll find the right person to communicate with. Any last thoughts before we surprise with this last slide, Sean?
I think it would just be try to hold on to that moment that you may have had this weekend where you were like, wow, or like, this is amazing. Hopefully everyone had at least one moment like that. And hold on to that and then figure out how to give that to another participant. I think that's really what allows this community to feel this way is all of us at least doing a +1 of forwarding it to one more. And then you get this recirculation of just great energy and kindness. And I was listening to the Garfield podcast. Kindness is a rooted, value. Actually needs to make it into that value doc. So if anyone's in there now, comment kindness, please. Yeah, that's the last thing for me.
Awesome. So if you're looking to stay involved, again, the mailing list, which is accessible from our complexityweekend.com, that's the best way to stay updated about registering. Talking to people in person, they will always route you to the right place, person, time that you need. If you want to step up a little bit more, be an active participant. Just do what you do and love what you do, and that will be the perfect kind of participation. If you want to get involved in a team, a lot of these teams, if not most of them, are still open to people joining. So we will connect you with that. And then if you want to serve through the community, then we have organization. And just like Sean said, organizing through a heartbeat is the best way to get started with that. You'll be a total co-equal. It'll be an absolutely collaborative. We customize the weekly meeting time so that it works for all the co-organizers. We always start with a beginner's mind, but we inherit templates. And so it's the best of both worlds. We hope that you will co-organize with us or that you'll facilitate because it's fun and it really is impactful for a lot of people. So I'll flip to this last slide. Let's party. Please. It's time to party. Head back to the gather space. This live stream will terminate in just a few seconds. We're going to go to the bar area as we often do and head down the stairs right in that central cafe. Turn that latte into the other drink of your choice and we'll see you in the bar interacting and gather as we do. And again, Sean, Shirley, Blue, everybody who is watching live and replay, it was amazing. This was such a special weekend. I'll always remember it. And I know that it's just the beginning of many things to come.
Nice. Couldn't put it better myself. Perfect.
See you all soon in Gather. Bye.